again. We have an interest in you and your business, so we're running these weekly business lunchtime talks. And so together, let's see how we can put the Bible back into business. My name is Trevor Boyd and I'm the minister here in Rathfriland Presbyterian Church. And you can find out more about us by visiting our YouTube channel, by pressing the subscribe button below, and stay in touch and receive our weekly updates. Today we're thinking about the leadership of a young woman called Esther and her cousin Mordecai under the title Doing the Right Thing. So firstly, we're going to read a few verses from the book of Esther. It's Esther chapter 2, verses 20 to 23. It says, "Now Esther had not revealed her family and her people, just as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther obeyed the command of Mordecai, as when she was brought up by him. In those days, while Mordecai sat within the king's gates, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, doorkeepers, became furious and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. So the matter became known to Mordecai, who told Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. And when an inquiry was made into the matter, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on the gallows. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king." We have the privilege of knowing the whole story of Esther from start to finish as we read it just in a few moments. We can quickly read through the pages, the various chapters, and we see the whole story of Esther before us. And we can understand how the story finishes, and we can understand that Esther and Mordecai live happily ever after. However, it would have been much different for them as they lived day by day, as they lived their lives, not knowing exactly how things were going to pan out, wondering each step of the way, had they made the right decisions? What lay in front of them? Would life be long or short? Business people can pick up the biography of a business person. They can read about how someone built their business, how they indeed built a business empire. But it's different when you are establishing or when you're running your business. You can't see if it is destined to have a long or a short history. You can't be 100% sure that you've got all the decisions right. That's just part of real life. I remember Easyjet airline being established in 1995 by Stellios as a low-cost airline. And from 2000 to 2004, Easyjet provided me with a lot of flights from Belfast to John Lennon Airport in Liverpool. Who was to know if they would survive? And I just heard the other week that this is the first year that Easyjet airline has published an annual loss. All you can do is do the right thing and see then where it takes you. Esther, as we've been reading about, she had respect for two people in her life. She respected Mordecai, her husband, who reared her because she was an orphan, and she respected her husband, the king. Mordecai, he also respected the king. And we can understand that relationship where we naturally want to respect our parents and respect our employer, our boss or our manager. I went to my dentist quite recently and I saw a sign on the wall. It read, "We will not tolerate verbal or physical abuse of our staff." And those are signs that pop up quite frequently now. And I thought, well, who would want to fall out with their dentist? But it's a growing trend as various businesses and various sectors of business, whether public or private, put up these signs for the welfare of their staff. Mordecai, he had a great interest in the welfare of Esther, and he had instructed Esther not to tell the king about her people and not to tell him basically that she was a Jew. Mordecai, he often during the day would have sat or walked by the palace just to hear how Esther was getting on, to find out if there's any news about her. One day Mordecai was sitting in the gateway of the palace, and he discovered that two of the king's employees were plotting to kill the king. When Mordecai discovered this plot, he reported it to Queen Esther, and then Esther in turn informed the king on Mordecai's behalf. There was an investigation into the whole allegation, and then it was confirmed that what Mordecai had reported was indeed true. And these two employees of the king were then hung on the gallows. There was a record of Mordecai's good deed in the journal of the king. But Mordecai at this point didn't receive any recognition for this honourable action. In life and in business and indeed in any relationship, it's good to be accountable to someone. It's good to respect others, especially those in authority over you. And as we learned from the life of Joseph a few weeks back, it's good practice to seek the prosperity of your manager or your boss. Again, like Joseph, Mordecai didn't gain immediately from doing the right thing. But Mordecai was a man of principle, and he did the right thing because it was always the right thing to do. Mordecai, he had a relationship of trust with Esther, as Esther had a relationship of trust with the king. And business, as you well know, it works best when there is a relationship built on trust between two people, whatever the level of interaction may be. Mordecai, well, he had love and concern for Esther as he sat or waited outside the palace each day for any news about how she was getting on. In business, we too should have a love and a concern for our work, a love and concern for our boss, our colleagues and our customers. It's good practice. It's the right thing to do. And yet, many of you know better than I. In business, it often takes courage to do the right thing. Business often requires courage because to be successful, you have to do things differently, more efficiently. You have to do things differently from the herd. You have to stand out from the pack. And that requires change, it requires tough decisions, and at the same time, it requires you to do the right thing for all concerned. Mordecai, well, he had the courage to tell Esther, and Esther had the courage to tell the king about the disloyal employees. And the king, as we discovered then, took decisive action to deal with the situation. You may be aware of something that's going on in the business where you're employed. You may be aware of the attitude of employees, and no one wants to be a telltale, but there is a place where you owe respect to your manager or to the business owner, where it's the right thing to tell the truth. It's the right thing to say when something wrong is happening or is planned. Because business, whether it's large, whether it's small, it all revolves around a few key principles, as illustrated here by the actions of Mordecai and Esther. It revolves around respect for the management, respect for colleagues, and respect for customers. In many ways, the Bible sums it up like this: love your neighbour as yourself, when we're treating other people the way we'd want to be treated, then we are doing things the right way. And so in the coming week, let's see how we can encourage, how we can build, and how we can demonstrate respect for management, for your colleagues, and respect for your customers. I trust that you have a great week doing the right thing as together we put the Bible back into business. Thanks for spending time with us today. We'll see you the same place, the same time next week. Take care. Bye-bye.